Hello and thanks for joining us from our studios in Tel Aviv. Coming up in today's newscast, Israeli and Palestinian lawmakers get feisty on Twitter. Croatian Jews take a stand against anti-Semitism, and another incredible historical discovery is made in the Holy Land. I'm Natasha Kirchuk here with the latest news in Israel. We've been talking a lot over the past few days about the Palestinian president's offer to meet with the Israeli prime minister in an effort to make peace. Now we have even more updates on the process, and we'll give you the scoop on a few feisty Twitter comments made by Israeli and Palestinian lawmakers. Yesterday we told you about how Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu says he'll clear his schedule to meet with Palestinian President Abbas. But he says Abbas first has to put a stop to Palestinian incitement against Israel. It looks like the Palestinian leader might actually be making some moves to do so, and now he's calling for a renewal of the trilateral anti-incitement committee. The group is made up of Israeli, Palestinian, and American officials, and it's designed to monitor incitement to terror or violence. The committee was founded as part of the Y River Memorandum in 1998, and it held meetings every 2 months until the Second Intifada broke out in 2000. President Abbas says both sides have been inciting violence and terror, and that the Palestinians are ready to restart the committee if Israel agrees. Israeli President Reuven Rivlin says he's happy about Abbas's calls for peace, but says that if the leader is serious about it, he needs to distance himself from radical groups like Hamas, which openly calls for the destruction of Israel. Yet it's unclear how likely that is, since Hamas and the Palestinian Authority's ruling group Fatah are already in talks to form a unity government and hold parliamentary elections within the next 6 months. Israeli and Palestinian government groups have already been arguing about Abbas's offer of peace negotiations, but this time on Twitter of all places. The Israeli Foreign Ministry has tweeted at the Palestinian Liberation Organization saying the ball's in their court now, and the PLO tweeted back saying there won't be any negotiations until Israel releases all Palestinian prisoners and ends all settlement activity. It looks like the Israeli Foreign Ministry might have a sense of humor, because they tweeted back asking if that was a yes to negotiations, or if the PLO is just making more excuses for why they're not ready for peace talks. For decades, the Syrian Hermon has been the Syrian army's closest position facing the Israeli Defense Forces. But now it looks like there's no longer a trace of the military that was once one of Israel's biggest threats. Now there are almost no places on the Syrian-Israeli border where Israeli and Syrian soldiers are facing each other, and Israeli officials believe the Syrians are busy going after ISIS. It's been over a month since a ceasefire was declared in the Syrian civil war, and now fighting has resumed in various parts of the country. The ceasefire doesn't include the most radical rebel group in Syria, which is the Islamic State, so it's allowed the Assad regime and Russian Air Force to attack the terror group. Israeli officials are beginning to be more optimistic that ISIS is close to its downfall in Syria. ISIS suffered a major defeat at the end of March when it was forced to withdraw from eastern Syria, and now it's having difficulty holding on to the large territory that it's called its Islamic Caliphate. The terror group has found itself having to fight off too many attackers at once, from the US to Russia to various European states. A senior Israeli security official claims the defeat of ISIS in Syria is only in a matter of time. The Jewish community in Croatia is planning to boycott the country's official Holocaust Memorial events this year, all in an effort to protest the government's failure to curb neo-Nazism. Every April, Croatia honors the victims of the Jasenovac death camp, which was operated by the pro-Nazi Ustasha regime during World War II. The camp is known as Croatia's Auschwitz, and over 30,000 Croatian Jews died during the Holocaust, a devastating 80% of the Croatian Jewish population. Now, the coordinating committee of the Jewish communities in Croatia says it refuses to participate in the Croatian government's annual memorial events for the Holocaust, and will instead hold its own commemoration for the event. The decision follows several cases of open anti-Semitism throughout the country, including pro-Nazi demonstrations at a soccer match last month. In January, demonstrators even chanted pro-Nazi slogans at an anti-government march. The president of the Jewish community says the Croatian government isn't doing anything to combat the anti-Semitism because it doesn't want to. Croatian officials have not yet responded to the Jewish community's decision to ignore the country's official Holocaust ceremony. But Prime Minister Tihomir Orešković has spoken out against hate speech in the media in the past. Israel is constantly concerned about its negative reputation in the international media, and many feel that Israel stands alone when it comes to fighting the BDS movement. Yet there are voices who claim just the opposite. Yoram Dori is an Israeli strategic advisor that served closely with the former Israeli President Shimon Peres for many years, and he's here in the studio with more. Thanks for coming in.
Good evening.
So, many Israelis feel that Israel is alone in this world and doesn't really have an international support system. Is that fair to say?
I think no. And I'll explain why. The BDS phenomena is accelerated from Israeli political reasons. The right wing and the left wing want to show want to express the victim phenomena of the Israelis. The other one wants to show how dangerous is a settlement policy of the current government. Both sides are wrong. Israel is not alone. Israel is not isolated. Israel is under no economic threat.
So in your opinion, what does the Israeli government need to be doing to kind of improve Israel's international image? What will it take?
I want to start a little bit to show the situation all over the world. We are always complaining that the whole world is against us. Let's start with China, a very small country. Only 1,350,000,000 people.
Tiny.
Well, very small. You can see in Ben Gurion Airport an air train from China of businessmen who are coming to Israel, trying to buy business, to share business, to develop things together. Then, next to China is also a very small country, India, that maybe there are 100 million people less than in China. Also, there are economic cooperation on irrigation, on innovation, on space. Then, let's go to United States of America. In the United States of America, the worst public opinion poll that I was familiar to showed that 75% of the Americans are supporting Israel and between 10 to 15% are supporting the Palestinians. And the same figures you have in Germany, also a very small country, in Hungary, and other places all around Europe. So please don't be afraid. And I'm asking our politicians, we are strong. We are the strongest country in all the Middle East. I have to use what David Ben-Gurion said about our army, that maybe the IDF is not the best army in the world, but you don't know any army who is better than the IDF. So if you are familiar to this situation, you know that the threat is not a strategic threat, neither a tactic threat. It's more a political threat that people are using it. But the question is how to cope with it. That is a really question. We Israelis always think that we are the center of the world. And we are acting as if we are the center of the world. When you are looking on the international relations, there are international visits in Israel of the world of global leaders. From the first second that they are sitting next to the Israeli president, the Israeli prime minister, the Israeli foreign minister, the Israeli minister of health, etc., the Israeli starts with the Palestinian problem and trying to justify our policy. Please show that we are number one in the world in irrigation. We are number one in the world in innovation. We are number one in the world in medical equipment. We are number one in the world in startups, in high-tech. Why always to speak only about settlement and Palestinian and violence, etc.?
So it's fair to say, that when you're thinking about Israel's allies in the world, you immediately think of the United States. But now with all of this innovation that's coming from the country, we're seeing new allies, right? You're talking about China and India, and that's not it. there are a lot more people, right? So, I want to change topics right now and actually talk about the politics a little bit. You were the spokesman for the former Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin, and at the time everyone really
as the chairman of the Labour Party, not as Prime Minister, although he was in two posts.
Right, well, at the time that he was working as Prime Minister. And so, everyone really thought that that was a time in Israeli history when we were going to be able to reach peace. Now you see that the Israeli Prime Minister and the Palestinian President are beginning to reinitiate peace talks. Hopefully that's going to happen. Is there an environment right now for peace to be reached? Is it going to happen? Is it possible?
First of all, peace between us and the Palestinians and our neighbors is possible. I am a graduate of the 73 war. I know what everybody said before 73, and we have, for the last 40 years, peace with Egypt, which is dramatic for the state of Israel. Without the peace that we have in Egypt, maybe there was no budget for welfare, for health, for education, etc., because everything were concentrated on the border with Egypt. And the same I'm saying about the Palestinians. The only reason that 8 million people are living here is because they have a belief that peace is achievable. Yes, we have to try hard. Yes, we need a partner. We have a very problematic partner. But although all the things I described, I am sure that in my time life, and for sure in the time life of my children and grandchildren, they will see peace between us and the Palestinians. It's a necessity for us and for the Palestinians, and that's why I think that we will find the ways and the means how to achieve peace.
Great. Well, it's great to see somebody who is thinking positively about the issue. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you.
And hopefully we'll have you back again. If you think libraries are a thing of the past, think again. Jews and Christians are known as the people of the book, and now the new Israeli National Library is set to be built in the Holy Land. Israeli President Ruvi Rivlin and Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu attended the cornerstone laying ceremony of the National Library, which will be built in Jerusalem adjacent to the Knesset and near the Israel Museum and Hebrew University. The National Library chairman, David Bloomberg, says the facility will become the most important cultural institution in Israel and the Jewish world. Netanyahu is calling the National Library a center of culture, intellectual freedom, enlightenment, and progress.
הספרייה שלנו נותנת ביטוי לרוחו של האדם החופשי. היא חלק מתרבות פתוחה ופלורליסטית, שדואגת בגישה בלתי מוגבלת לידע, חירות המחשבה, חופש היצירה. בניגוד לקנאי האסלאם, שמשמידים אוצרות תרבות, אנחנו מגנים על התרבות, וכמובן גם על המדינה עצמה. אנחנו משקיעים בבניין הכוח, ובמקביל אנחנו מטפחים את בניין הרוח. ביקרתי בספריית הקונגרס בוושינגטון, ביקרתי בספרייה הבריטית המפוארת, כולל רק בשנה האחרונה. הספרייה הלאומית של ישראל תעמוד יחד איתן בשורה הראשונה של ספריות העולם התרבותי.
The new library will be over 484,000 square feet, with 6 floors above ground and 4 more below ground. Funding for the $200 million project is coming from the government and from major donations from the Rothschild family's charity Yad HaNadiv and from the Gottesman family from New York. Lord Jacob Rothschild spoke at the ceremony and says that for over 2,000 years, Jewish writings were scattered throughout the world, and now they'll have a home in the heart of Jerusalem. The plan is to make the new library fully accessible to the public, and it's scheduled to open in 2020. Yet another amazing historical discovery has been made in Israel, and this time archaeologists have discovered ancient artifacts at Magdala, a 2,000-year-old Jewish town near the Sea of Galilee. The Israel Antiquities Authority is leading an excavation in Magdala on the western shore of the Sea of Galilee, and they've already found some pretty impressive ruins.
I'm working together with Arfa Najjar, my colleague, since 2009 in Magdala, in the north of the Lake of Galilee. Magdala is known from the Jewish sources by Yosef ben Matityahu, who was the commander of the big revolt in the Galilee. He mentioned Magdala and the Jewish settlement over there. And also we know Magdala from the Christian sources by Maria Magdalena, who was born in Magdala and of course was one of the most important followers of Jesus.
One of the finds was a decorated incense shovel, which was used to transfer embers, along with a bronze jug. The two items were found lying next to each other on a floor in one room in an ancient storehouse, which was part of a Jewish settlement at Magdala that's over 2,000 years old.
Together with volunteers from Chile, we excavate a shovel made of bronze. This is the first one we found in Magdala, and not many of them found in the Galilee. Actually, this shovel belonging to the temple. That's what we know from later mosaic floor that we found in synagogues from later period.
Dina Avshalom Gorni is the chief archaeologist of the project, and she says the items might have been saved in the storeroom because they were heirlooms of one of the Jewish families living in the settlement, or they might have also been used for daily work. The items come from the Second Temple period, and they were greatly preserved.
In the Jewish temple, the shovel were used by the priests, part of the ceremony around the altar, serving the burnt incense to the altar. After excavating the synagogue in Magdala, which dated to the 1st century AD, we presume that this holy dish, shovel, were kept in a Jewish family, in their storage room, kept there for many years, till we find it on this floor after 2,000 years.
The Israel Antiquities Authority has been leading extensive excavations at the site in recent years and has found the Jewish settlement along with Jewish ritual baths, streets, a marketplace, a synagogue, and industrial facilities. And if the name of the site sounds familiar to you, it's because Magdala is important in both Jewish and Christian traditions. It's located near the town of Magdala, which was a large Jewish settlement in the early Roman period and served as a main military base for Josephus as he waged war against the Romans. Magdala is also mentioned in Christian sources, and it's known as the birthplace of Mary Magdalene, who was a follower of Jesus and according to the Gospel of John was the first person to see him after his resurrection. And now for our Hebrew word of the day. As the weather gets warm in Israel, you can't help but feel more positive about what's to come. So today's word is chiyuvi, which means positive in Hebrew. Things can get rough in the Middle East, so it's important to stay positive. If you're feeling down, Israelis like to say tachshov chiyuvi, or think positive, just like in English. So when it gets too hot outside and you feel like you just can't find an escape from the Middle Eastern heat, tachshov chiyuvi, because the Israeli beach is just around the corner. In the army, chiyuvi is also used to say roger that or confirmed. And if you want to sound like a real Israeli veteran, you can say chiyuvi if an Israeli asks you if you understand what they're saying. Just be careful how much you use a word because it's not very common to say unless you're still serving in the army. You might end up getting made fun of. Either way, stay chiyuvi because it's all in good fun. Let's go ahead and take a look at the weather forecast. The warm weather continues. Tomorrow is expected to be sunny with a high of 76 degrees. Friday should be even more hot and the temperature will jump up to 84. All right, everybody, that's it for today's news. Today's exchange rate is 3.81 shekels to the American dollar. Remember to sign up for our daily newsletter at iltv.tv and don't forget to check out our next update at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Thanks for watching and we'll see you tonight.